Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm your host, Justin Wells, here with the managing partner, Eric Nalleen. And, it's Friday. That means we got to go inside the program, E. And there's a lot to talk about. Football is back. They've got a D-line coach. They're they're going through workouts now, the underwear Olympics. We've got some leadership stuff we need to talk about as well. And even we're going to hit on some of the early enrollees as well, kind of seeing how they're getting assimilated into it. So I want to jump right into it, Eric. Let's talk D-line coach. We got a guy. Texas hires Kenny Baker, D-line coach from the Miami Dolphins this week. Looked like it was going to be Roderick Wright at the beginning of the week, but some things kind of tilted and went another direction. That's the way of sports, the way of football. What can you tell us about Coach Baker and this hire, E?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad the hire was finally made because, man, I hate being on the live stream and not having the answers I need to have. That drives me crazy. Assistant D-line coach at Miami, so that meant, like everybody else, I asked who. I wasn't not in a way that I cared one way or the other. I'm not indifferent. I'm kind of indifferent on it from the standpoint of I don't need a big name hire, a splash hire, or somebody I'm intimately familiar with over the years. To me, the hire is about traits. Traits are what's important. You can evaluate a coach just as much as you can evaluate players. I go back to Jeff Traylor being hired, and both you and I said that he was going to be an excellent recruiter, and people question that. How could we know that without him having a track record? And it's because we knew the traits. We knew the traits were there. And he was probably recruiting a little bit in high school. But we knew the traits were in place. And here we just you have to trust Sark. Kenny Baker, if you go watch his YouTubes, he looks like he's outgoing as you'd expect with a defensive tackles coach. He's definitely sharp, quick-witted on camera. That's going to play well in front of recruits. But then you have to like the geography he's from. And the unofficial capital of the South has got to be Atlanta. And he's intimately familiar with Georgia. He's from Georgia. He spent a lot of time in that region, so that's going to play well. That's going to be familiarity. He's going to speak the same cultural languages. He's not going to seem like an outsider, like a Brian Kelly going from Notre Dame to LSU. Like he's going to be comfortable in his skin. So now we know that he's going to be a good developer. That's why he was working for Vic Fangio in Miami. And then you just trust Sark did his homework on it. And we don't know who Sark talked to. He's got such a long network. He didn't just find the YouTube channel and say, "I want this guy." He did a lot of homework. We have no idea how many people he talked to. I'm sure he's talked to some high school coaches about Baker as a recruiter because he did recruit the Southeast region. So here's the thing. You just kind of trust Sark or you don't, and I trust Sark.
Yeah, and I reached out to a handful of coaches and sources kind of, just kicking the tires on who Kenny Baker is. And the one name that kept popping up was Vic Fangio. That if you come from that guy's tree, if you come from that guy's stratosphere, you generally turn into a really good football coach. That guy has some sort of track record, probably even more so than I even factored in. But you talking to coach, just speaking with coaches, they love that guy.
Yeah, there's no shame in being an assistant D-line coach in the NFL. That's a stepping stone for a lot of these guys. A lot of the best guys currently in the NFL, the big names that the fans want, those are the guys that went up the hard way. They went through. They originally went to coach at schools that you hadn't heard of. Schools that weren't even making the NCAA basketball tournament. And then, eventually they worked their way up. And the assistant D-line coach is kind of like an internship. If you prove yourself there, you got a chance to move on. And so we don't know if he was going to move on. But, from assistant D-line coach to Texas, that's a pretty similar jump. So now he's got a shot. Recruiting is going to be a little bit easier than it was at Western Kentucky with that Longhorn on his shirt. Let's see what he's made of. I'm excited. I like the newness of it. Something new for us to cover and learn about.
And like you said, he's from that Southeast region, the capital down there in Atlanta, and he's going to be able to carry that SEC moniker with him. He's not just recruiting for Texas. He's recruiting that conference. And you want to get in the front doors of a lot of those high schools in that region, bring the SEC logos. Those three letters seem to bring a lot of weight. Real quick, I want to give a little bit of paying the bills. And let's talk about Andre the lawyer. Our man Andre the lawyer is he's a lawyer that helps all injured Longhorns, but he really helps everyone anytime you need him. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Listen, like our man Lucas said, Andre has range. Okay, you want to give Andre the lawyer a call. This is a guy that if you ever get stuck in this sort of position, give him a buzz. Hear him out. Let him help you out. 214-444-8808. He's a longtime reader of Inside Texas, big fan, and we love what he does. And like I said, if you ever get caught in a position where you need some help, Andre the Lawyer is a guy you need to call. 214-444-8808. All right, the team is back in workouts. They went back. I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday that they were back in the back. Tuesday, back in the saddle. They had that they had a little bit longer of a layoff because they had played in the playoff, the college football playoff. So they gave them a few more days. It's kind of the underwear Olympics, but in some aspects, it's really, seeing who came back ready, seeing who's going to be able to make an impact, with players back in action. What are the latest that you're hearing this week, basically from sources in the program, but how these Texas players, it's a different standard now. This is a different group, and now they're having to reset the clock. And as hard as they worked in the last 12 months to get to that college football playoff, to win the Big 12, what are they going to have to do now for these next goals?
Well, that's the thing. The expectations are raised now. There's a lot of excitement within the program because of what they accomplished, but there's also excitement for what they believe they can still accomplish, what they left on the table. Like I said, the standard is up now. Last year they wanted to win the Big 12. Here they want to win. They want to get back to the playoffs and win it all, and they believe they can. So that's part of the excitement, and that's part of where the confidence stems from. But there's also a lot of excitement about all the new people in. New arrivals, whether they're, grad transfers or coming from high schools, they're excited about that new chapter. Those high school kids have been looking forward to this for years, if not months, dating back to when they signed in December and when they committed to Texas originally. Now it gets real. So they're still on the honeymoon stage for the younger guys. It's going to get a lot tougher. Now workouts I'm going to go into workouts much more detail tomorrow morning on Inside Texas. I'm going to write it up, what I know on that. But right now they're still in the honeymoon stage, but they're acclimating the younger guys to the workout program. They're making sure that they're lifting the right way, that they're lifting safely. And right now, the returning players that have already gone through strength and conditioning, this is kind of just knocking the rust off, loosening their body up, getting them ready to really start ramping it up with harder workouts. Like I said, we'll go into a lot more detail tomorrow morning on the actual workouts. But the sentiment within the program is one of excitement and confidence. From the coaching staff to the players, they're confident about what they have in place. Now they know it's time to put in work and see if they can maximize.
And that's the team mindset, really. That's how you reset. You reset the clock and you realize, okay, guys, it's time to go back to work. It's time to redo this. And to me, with that current mindset, you also have to develop new leaders. And I noticed in some of the clips that Texas shows, TexasFootball.com does a great job on putting out, social media posts, from workouts and this thing. And you notice Quinn Ewers is at the head when they're doing different things. And so to me, it's also developing new team leadership. Now, not to say Quinn wasn't, pretty good little steward of the offense in the last season, but there's no more T'Vondre Sweat in the locker room. There's no more Jalen Ford in that locker room, or rather
Jordan
Christian
Whittington.
Jones.
Yeah, Jordan Whittington.
And Jordan Whittington. Like there's new guys. And so there needs to be that next wave of team leadership. Who are some of the guys that you feel like are going to be they're going to be leaned on? These are guys that are going to need to take a step up, either being more vocal or just leading more by example.
Yeah, I mean, Sark has done a really good job of creating that assembly line of, one finished product leaves the factory, and then the next wave comes through. And right now we're at that next wave. There's a lot to replace, but there's a lot in place to replace them. So like you said, Quinn Ewers is one for sure. On the offensive line has two. You got to count Jake Majors and Kelvin Banks stepping up.
Yeah,
Banks has always been kind of that quiet leader you just mentioned. I think he's going to become a little bit more assertive now. He's an upperclassman. He's about to be an upperclassman. He's always kind of done the right things. Now I think he's going to become a little more vocal. Majors is the guy at that. He's the anchor on the line at center, but also in the room. Very mature, obviously, very experienced. Started to get, I think, appreciated the right way this past season after he was injured. I think everyone started to realize, hey, maybe that guy is pretty good. So that's your offensive leadership. They're going to need some guys to, I never really hear about Gunnar Helm. I've never heard anything negative. I need to ask about him because, Jatavian became a pretty good leader over time. Wide receivers are going to have to replace some guys. That's to be determined. We're going to have to reassess that one in a month or so. Defensive line, that's Barron Sorrell. We've been hearing about him having the right intangibles since he got on campus. Very hard worker, does everything the right way, goes the extra mile, very businesslike. He's going to be the leader on that defensive line, trying to replace Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, and he'll do a good job at that. Ethan Burke is another one we need to check on, similar to Gunnar Helm. I just haven't heard much about him in that regard. Must be a pretty quiet guy. Linebacker's interesting. They've got 3 guys were mentioned to me for different reasons. First, it was Benda and Maurice Blackwell. They've got experience. Obviously, Benda's a beast in the weight room. He's going to push. He's going to push the pressure in the gym, making sure everybody's getting their last reps and working as hard as they can. That's really where he's got what's gotten him to this point. Blackwell's experienced, highly energetic guy. People like being around him. He's infectious. Oh man, this is like you. Infectious. Oh man, I went Justin Wells on it. He's infectious.
Never go full East Texas.
Oh my Lord. And then you got Anthony Hill. Anthony's just kind of becoming a leader because he's the dude. Everybody knows he's a beast. He's a highly confident guy, but he works behind the scenes too. He's not just relying on his natural ability, and that's earned everybody a lot of respect. And then secondary, Jahdae Barron coming back was huge. You got Jahdae Barron and Michael Taff in the secondary. So, I think most of those guys that I mentioned will probably end up being on the leadership council. I don't know if they've done the leadership council yet or if it's still coming. I'm thinking they probably haven't, just because Sark's been on the road recruiting so much. They've been killing it. The whole staff has. If you see, I don't know how many offers went out yesterday. So this is kind of what we're talking about right now is Torrey Becton's wheelhouse. This is Torrey Becton leading the charge on all this stuff. But leadership is in a good place. Now we just got to keep going, establish the leaders on the council, and get the younger guys bought in. And that next wave is going to come. These guys, some of these guys will be gone next year, and there's going to be another wave right behind them because Sark has done a really good job of recruiting the right guys and instilling the culture.
And what's funny is we don't expect the transfer portal guys to necessarily be leaders instantly. That just doesn't jive. But for me, Andrew Makuba is going to be a guy that's viewed as a leader at some point. It's part of his DNA.
And what's great there is he's known Taff and Barron for a very long time. Going back to when they're younger in high school, those Centex guys they've been close for a long time. So that's going to really help Makuba get kind of initial street credibility with the rest of the roster, I think. And you're right about him. I think, Matthew Golden, we'll talk about him in a minute probably, but he's another guy. And Isaiah Bond, the guy that comes from Alabama, unless you're getting the guys that Nick Saban didn't want to keep, and we know Isaiah Bond was one they wanted to keep because he was so close to going into the portal. And Saban talked him out of it. And then, of course, Saban retired and Bond said, all right, now I'm out. But, Saban fought tooth and nail to keep him, unlike Agiye Hall or Jaleel Billingsley. So I think anybody coming out of that program that Saban wants to keep, I think they wanted to keep Blackshear too. Those guys are going to come in from that culture and kind of it's going to be an easy transition for them.
Yeah, I like the Alabama guys coming in because they bring some of that work ethic. Now, Agiye Hall, Jaleel Billingsley, those are the outliers. But these other guys are guys, like you said, when Saban wants to keep them, those are guys you want to go after. And like with Bond, I think that wide receiver room needs a voice. I don't know if it's going to be Jonte Cook or an Isaiah Bond or even a Matthew Golden.
I'm hearing Cook is putting in some work, but I don't think he's quite there yet on the leadership thing. I think it's going to be interesting in the wide receiver room. Having Quinn, I think, is becoming a more vocal leader is going to help out the wide receivers. Because there's a bit of a void, for all the gas station pictures on Instagram that Xavier Worthy took. That guy busted his ass behind the scenes. He was a hard worker. You want those guys, and we have to see who replaces that tenacious work ethic that Worthy had.
And it's got to be organic. You talk about that a lot too. It can't just be the oldest guy, the newest guy, the best player. It's got to kind of happen organically. That's how the best things come together. And I'm a big fan of Isaiah Bond. I think that's going to be the guy's voice. From 007 to the 512. I'm a big fan of Bond, and I think he's going to bring that type of ability. Eric, the 2024 cycle was incredible. Top 5 class for Sark. Third consecutive year that he's done that. 80% of those guys that signed are on campus doing workouts right now. And that, to me, it just shows the new standard that Sark has when it comes to recruiting and those self-motivated, driven, young, focused guys that decided, I'm done with high school. I want to start the next part of my life. They're on campus right now. Who is impressing early? Who are you hearing that's already in the mix, that's already showing a work ethic, showing some drive? There's a number of guys we can talk about, and I've already heard of a couple of them as well. I want to hear yours.
Yeah, and this is not going to be an exhaustive list, okay? They've only been working out for a week. The guys have been on campus for, 2 weeks? So this is, don't take this with a grain of salt.
Right.
The guys that we're hearing about, okay, that's good. Take that as good news. But if you don't hear about anybody, don't take that as a negative. This is all brand new and just kind of jumped out. And, a lot of different people have different opinions. But Brandon Baker was one I heard about. very driven. Some of these guys show up and you can see, all right, they've got some maturing to do because they are still young. Even if they are driven, they are still young. But he's coming out of a powerhouse school like Mater Dei. I think that really did a good job of preparing him to be ready for the college grind. He's showing a lot of initiative, and he looks like $1 million. Like, he's already got good size. He carries it very well. So you could say that you could chalk him up for, as far as offensive line goes, he's got a lot of mental maturity and a lot of physical maturity already, on top of just insane talent. So the future is extremely bright. I was just flat told the guy's going to be a stud. Not that we think he's got a chance or anything like that. That flat out he's going to be a stud. So file that one away. Don't expect him to play a ton this year, but I do think will see the field.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be pushing very hard to start the following season. Ryan Wingo was another one. And what I heard there was just his agility and mobility. We all know that he's a straight line beast. We know that he can be a running back after the catch. He's just a built up kid, very physically mature, explosive in a vertical line. But we're hearing that he's very, very good change of direction, very quick. And so if he uses that, if he has that ability to become an all around or just a good route runner, he's going to be virtually unstoppable because he's got that 10-6 vertical speed. He's got power. He can win with power. If he starts winning because he's creating separation at the top of his route or on cuts, it's going to be game over for him. So that was very exciting to hear because we already expect he's going to be good just on the physical gifts. But if he becomes a nuanced route runner, that's going to be game over. And then Matthew Golden, we had heard that he was businesslike at U of H, and that's continuing. The guy's just kind of quiet but ready to work. And our sources are excited about him. We've both heard it. I think Charlie Williams heard it as well. Our new Inside Texas recruiting writer has heard it, that they think behind the scenes, they think they'll get Bond and Golden out of Texas after 1 year, similar to Adonai Mitchell last season. So that's exciting. That would portend a very good season for Ewers and the entire offense. But yeah, those guys are putting in work. I love this time of year. Everything's new to us, brand new storylines. So lots to cover over at Inside Texas.
Absolutely. I'll give you one on the defensive side. I met Gavin Nix on Saturday at Texas Junior Day, and that's the linebacker out of the IMG Academy down in Bradenton, Florida. 6 foot, about 226, kind of looks like a little taller Gary Johnson clone. I mean, just dense, just thick. And he's been roommates with Jordan Johnson Rebel for the last year down in Bradenton, Florida. And I was talking to him and his father, and Jordan Johnson Rebel was leading their recruitment group. Yeah. Rebel's been there a week, and he's already leading the recruitment group. And I asked Gavin's father, how close are you guys? And he goes, listen, Jordan Johnson Rebel is a natural leader. And he goes, he proved it. He said one of the coaches told him the guy's only been here, 5 or 6 days, and he's already helping out with recruiting. Yeah. He's already helping out wherever you need help. And so I think Jordan Johnson Rebel's a guy, like you said, it's got to be organic, but he just has those traits. He just has that mindset.
He's one we foreshadowed last week before workouts even began, that I said, if there's a name we're going to probably hear, it's Jordan Johnson Rebel. And when you say he's been there 5 days or whatever, he's how many times did he visit? That guy had a lot of familiarity with Texas. He was bought in, and we had him pretty much figured in the class at a pretty early stage. But yeah, again, so it's similar to IMG. He's coming from a factory where those guys they're in high school technically, but those are kind of quasi college as well. Those Mater Dei, IMG. It's not your standard high school. All right. These guys are getting it a lot different than, say, where I went to high school, or even where you went to high school. You went to a bigger high school than me. It's a lot different. And there's just a different level of readiness that comes with them. And so I didn't know that him and Gavin Nix were roommates. So there's always some backstory of why is Gavin Nix at visiting Texas. And now, that makes a lot more sense.
It does. And it does. And so, I love talking young leaders. I love these young guys. We did this the last 2 cycles, young guys coming in that were immediate impact guys. And I think that goes to Sark's evaluations.
Yep. Yeah, we knew it with Hill. We knew it with Muhammad. So what we're hearing now is it does carry weight going forward. Now we have to see that you want to keep hearing it, right? We want these themes to emerge. Themes were emerged with Muhammad and Hill last year. They're still got maturing to do. Don't get me wrong, because they're 18 years old, and there's no such thing as a fully mature 18-year-old, all right?
Correct.
Up 40, 46, 40, I don't know how, 45 or 46, and I'm still not fully mature. So, but they're ahead of the curve for where they should be. And yeah, that's great to hear about Jordan Johnson Rebel. I expected that, but I hadn't heard that. So that's a good point.
Eric, that covers it. Like, if you needed your review viewers, that was it. In 20 minutes, you just got everything that's going on inside the program at InsideTexas.com. There's so many things you need to come. Please like and subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. Keep helping us continue to grow. Please come see us at InsideTexas.com. We're doing $1 for a month, and promise you, we will earn your business. You just got to give us a shot. There really isn't a better time. Workouts are starting to amp up. Some of the players are starting to get assimilated. Recruiting for 2025 has really taken off. Transfer portal news, you need to check InsideTexas.com for that. We're always trying to update that as well, because there's always guys in the mix. Eric, I sure do appreciate you joining me today. Please, again, like and subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. And once again, thank you for joining us and making us a part of your day. From Inside Texas Football and the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, have a good one.